Welcome to Rambam in Depth. Today we'll be discussing the Rambam Hilchos Ishus, Perik Zayin, Halacha Chav Beis. Hamakadosh Isha, v'chazer by miyad huay he. Someone who marries a woman, does kedushin by giving her a ring in the presence of two witnesses, and after he gives the ring and he says, Hareyat Mekudeshesli, I'm marrying you with this ring, and the kedushin takes effect, and he then retracts. Immediately he retracts, he or she retracts. Even if they retracted within a very short period, the time that it takes to say, Shalom Alecha Marital Rabbi, peace to you, my master and teacher, just a few seconds, even if it was within such a period, and in normal cases, if you sell something and you retract it right away, the retraction is valid and the sale is null and void. But when it comes to kedushin, the Rambam rules, based on the Gemara in the Darim, Ein chazerasim klum, their retraction is of no consequence, varehi mekudeshes, and she is married, and she needs, of course, a get. This halacha is somewhat puzzling, because we know that in all of the Torah, in all transactions, you could always retract. So why over here is there no retraction? So the Rebbe in Likutei Sichos gives the following explanation. Says, when it comes to witnesses, the Rogatchover always emphasizes that there are two kinds of witnesses. There's Eide Birur and Eide Kiyum. Eide Birur means witnesses that have as their role the verification of whatever it is that they're testifying about. So you have a sale and you have witnesses. The witnesses testify that the sale took effect. The witnesses don't create the sale. Let's say you promise and you make a kinyan to give someone something, and there are no witnesses, you still have an obligation to maintain that sale. And if you deny it, you're denying the fact that the sale did go through, and it would be greva for you to withhold whatever it is from the person to whom you sold the object. You only need witnesses if you want to take the person to court and prove that the person owes you something. And in the case of a debt, in the case of a sale, you need witnesses. Those are called Eidei Birur, witnesses that verify. But then there's another category of witnesses called Eidei Kiyum, witnesses that actually establish the transaction. Without those witnesses, there is no transaction. For example, kedushin. If someone marries a woman, she consents to it, he consents to it, he does everything right, but there are no witnesses, no kosher witnesses that are present. It's not just a question of we can't prove that it happened, because if they both say, yes, it happened, we got married, there's no marriage. The marriage is null and void. Why? Because there's no edus, there are no witnesses. The witnesses actually create the marriage. They make the marriage take effect. And what's the practical difference? The practical difference is that when there's a transaction in the presence of witnesses, any transaction, a loan or a sale or a gift, when do they become witnesses? They're not witnesses while they're witnessing the act. They have no status of witnesses. When they come to court and they testify, we were present when this transaction took place, that's when they become witnesses. By contrast, in the case of kedushin, they are witnesses at the time of the wedding. They are considered witnesses, because it's not just later on when they testify that the marriage took place. Yes, they can do that as well, and they verify the fact that the marriage took place, but they created the marriage. The Rogatchover explains the halacha, why there is no cross-examination when it comes to witnesses of kedushin. So the Rogatchover explains that with this yisod, with this premise. Well, the reason why you need chakira udrisha, cross-examination of the witnesses, you need that only when the witnesses are there to verify something. And they are now witnesses when they come to court. So before the court can accept them as witnesses, the court has to be confident that these witnesses are true witnesses, that they're not faking, they're not lying, they're not misrepresenting what happened. So they need to be cross-examined. By she'ein kain, by contrast, the witnesses in kedushin, they are witnesses before they come to Bezdin. So they're already witnesses. You can't say, well, let's verify the witnesses. If they weren't witnesses before, then there's no kedushin. So you see that the Torah considers the witnesses to be valid witnesses without the verification. Verification is only needed when they come to court and they're not yet witnesses. We have to establish them as witnesses. And with this, the Rebbe explains why kedushin you cannot retract even teich k'dei dibur, even within a few seconds, as opposed to other things. When it comes to other transactions, the Ran explains that they're not so serious matters. A sale of a house, sale of a piece of property, a sale of an object, it's not such a serious matter. So we're not 100% sure that the transaction was done with full agreement, that the person really meant it. There's no gemiras das that's complete, no sincere or no verification that was a sincere intent to really sell. Sometimes people say things and they don't really mean it fully. They're contemplating it. They're not really 100% confident. That's why they can always retract, because they never really meant it fully. Mashiach Kedushin, which is a very serious matter, marriage is a much more serious halacha than just a sale of property. Therefore, when they say they're going through the marriage, when they go through the actual ceremony, they mean it 100%. So the Rebbe asks that this explanation needs clarification, because if we're saying that that the gemiras das, the sense that we were confident that he really meant it, doesn't exist right away, that means that the transaction doesn't take place right away. So if the transaction takes place at a certain time, you have to wait a few seconds. And what would the difference be? According to that analysis, if a person gives someone a gift of food, you'd have to wait a few seconds before you take a bite. You wouldn't be able to just put it in your mouth right away. Why? Because the person never fully agreed to give it to you, to sell it to you. So you have no right to use it until a few seconds go by. But that's untenable, because there's no such halacha that if someone gives you a gift, you have to wait a few seconds before you eat it. So that shows that the transaction takes place right away. The only thing is you have the power to retract. So then the question comes back again, why don't you have the power to retract by Kedushin? So the Rebbe says the answer is when you're retracting in a sale, you're not doing something against the other people who make up the transaction, the witnesses. The witnesses were witnesses only when they come to verify it. They were not witnesses at the time of the transaction. Then they don't make the transaction take effect. By contrast, when it comes to Kedushin, when you make the act of Kedushin, you're not the only one who's acting there, who's making the Kedushin valid. The witnesses are a partner in it, in a sense. They are creating the status of Kedushin. And if they're creating the status of Kedushin, how could you retract? How could you undermine something that was dependent on the mind and on the agreement and the presence of others?